All right. Hi, everybody. I have never done anything like this before, and this is completely unscripted, and I will have to apologize for the state of my studio. It's my spare bedroom in my apartment. So I decided to make a little bit of a video based on the fact that Highguard is shutting its servers down on March 12th, which just so happens to be next Thursday. Today is March 3rd. And I would like to clarify I have no experience in game development. I have no background in anything like that. I am a pilot. I fly for a living. And I just wanted to make a commentary on my opinion on the state of the game. So you have a game that is made from former Titanfall and Apex developers. So they are coming from Respawn and that background. So you have a game with a team who is capable of very excellent things. The mechanics, the gameplay, the shooting, the mobility, all of that are all expected to be top class, which from a gameplay experience standpoint, everyone who played it, I also forgot to mention I have not played Highguard, said that all of those things were fantastic. So where is the elephant in the room? Obviously, it's the fact that you have the creator of the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley, who I personally think is doing wonderful things for the gaming medium. I love the Game Awards every year. I love opening night live. But it also was definitely a nail in the foot when it was the final reveal at the Game Awards 2025. You have all of the hype coming from the rest of the award show, and everyone wants the last reveal to be phenomenal, which historically it has been. And then at the end of the Game Awards 2025, it was Highguard. And that was definitely one of those things where it immediately shifted the opinion of this game from something that could have great potential to just immediately all the hype was dead. And you started seeing people saying that the game would be done on arrival and that no one was going to play it. And I personally can't help but think that that definitely hurt its chances. I just don't know why Jeff thought that it would be an excellent final reveal for the awards when, again, historically, I think all of the final reveals have been fantastic. Like the final reveal in 2024 being Naughty Dog's new IP. I can't remember the name of the game right now, but also you have the elements of kind of like that retro futurism with the jukebox and the Porsche ship. And obviously Sony has a heavy hand in it since Naughty Dog is primarily a Sony studio. I thought that that was great. Everyone's been waiting on the new Naughty Dog IP since The Last of Us 2 came out, which I won't make any comments on. Again, never played that game, but a lot of controversy there, right? With the story and everything. But I just can't help but think that Highguard being the final reveal at the Game Awards 2025 immediately killed its chances at being a game that would succeed and run in the long term. It also didn't help that, a lot of games that are coming out right now are in the extraction shooter genre. Obviously, I might make another video on Marathon if this one gets any traction at all. Arc Raiders, obviously being huge in the streaming world right now. Played Arc Raiders a little bit myself. Like it, but I definitely think that Marathon's more my speed as an extraction shooter. I just think that Marathon does things that draw me personally in a lot more, and I probably will get a lot of kickback on that, considering how the Marathon server slam went, and with that launching on Friday. But I definitely think that people are not giving that game a big enough chance yet. I think that people are so hyper-focused on Arc Raiders and all of the success that that's had, especially, with the Burnt Peanut playing that and absolutely just making that game explode in popularity. I just think that things were going to be rough from the jump for Highguard. I'm not celebrating the fact that that game studio is, shutting down its maiden game. I obviously think that the team over there, I can't even remember the name of the studio right now, but there's obviously a lot of potential there with people coming from Apex and Titanfall, two of arguably the greatest first-person shooters of the 21st century so far. But I just can't help but think that they handled things horribly. The response from the developers responding to the backlash after everything happened didn't help at all. And just the fact that immediately after the game launched, it didn't meet some crazy high expectation, publisher numbers, just immediately shot the game down. The 3v3 launch, everyone has said was not enough. The maps were too big. The mechanics weren't set up for a 3v3 initially. And then, they said they launched the 5v5. That helped a lot. Obviously not enough. I just can't help but think in this day and age where there's so much hype surrounding things, if you don't have crazy backing, that you're just immediately going to have a failure. But on the other side of that coin, that's not the case, right? Helldivers 2, Arrowhead was a very small studio. The original Helldivers came out in like 2012. It was a PS4 exclusive and never breached like 7,000 players concurrent. And Helldivers 2 comes out. Arrowhead was a team of like 50 at the time. And Helldivers 2 just shattered every expectation that existed in Arrowhead's book and Sony's book, which again put more pressure on Arrowhead because now they had this giant success and Sony just saw dollar signs. So they just started putting an obscene amount of pressure on Arrowhead. But Arrowhead has done a phenomenal job of keeping that game alive. Obviously, there's dips in player bases between significant story arcs that happen in that game, but I don't think anyone expected Helldivers 2 to explode the way that it did. And then games like Among Us, which obviously that was during the pandemic. That's a little bit of a different story. But then, stuff like Lethal Company. No one expected Lethal Company to explode, and it did. It outsold Call of Duty for like 3 weeks when it first launched on the market. So you can't use the, it's a new IP, it's going to die on release excuse as a development studio, because you have these indie developers that are creating these games where they're making money hand over fist, albeit for a short amount of time, but they're still considered a short-term success because people enjoy playing them. Probably not for as long as developers would like, but you just can't use that, the game's a new IP, it's a new idea, it's just going to die on release excuse, in my opinion, as a studio, especially when you have a team of seasoned developers creating a game. I also think that the, hero genre shooter type deal that they were doing, kind of like that Call of Duty arena, but objective-based kind of CSGO Valorant thing, I think that turned a lot of people off. I don't think people want to see an objective-based game in an arena shooter like that. I obviously don't think it should have been a battle royale. I think that battle royales are enjoyable to play, but maybe kind of on their way out. And definitely no one wanted to see, like a Call of Duty 3.0 type thing going on. Again, no experience in game development. I don't know what the creative process was. I definitely think that the game had some potential, but I think they tried to do too much in too little of a space, and then immediately just kind of started blaming the player base on something that, I think not a lot of people really wanted. So obviously, everyone says Concord 2.0, right? And it's definitely looking like that's what this is becoming. So it's just one of those things where I can't help but feel like, maybe some people on the development team may have been out of touch and didn't want to capitalize on what's popular right now. I have no problem with taking risks. I think you should take risks in the creative space, but making something that isn't popular right now and then, saying that the game was a failure because the players ruined it. If it was a truly good game that had a lot of potential, the negative opinions of people on the internet wouldn't have killed the game immediately. It's just one of those things where if it was a good game with a good premise and the gameplay was phenomenal and the mechanics were all, great and new and interesting, the game would have lasted longer than 2.5 or 3 weeks, however long it lasted. I can't even remember the launch date. I think it was like February 27th, and today's March 3rd. It was definitely earlier than the 27th. It might have been like February 18th or something. But I'm not celebrating the game's death, but I'm also kind of chuckling to myself just because I think that there's a lot of evil on both sides, on the developer end and on the consumer side. But it's just one of those things where the game was way over, I don't want to say over expected from like the creative side, but I definitely can't help but think that it being the final reveal at the Game Awards, which is supposed to be this huge, crazy release or reveal rather, that it just immediately killed the game's expectations from the consumer standpoint. Like, to me, none of the reveals at 2025's Game Awards stand out really besides, and a lot of people are going to laugh at me for this as, an aviation and a military nerd, as Ace Combat 8. I stood up and cheered when the Ace Combat 8 reveal trailer happened. That would have been a much better final reveal for me. That's obviously a way more niche game. Not a lot of people, I think, have heard of Ace Combat, really, period. But it's Konami. It has a storied history. The games have been popular since the PlayStation 2 era, and the 3 first games that came out from the Ace Combat are like considered the Golden Boy trilogy of the Ace Combat games. It would have been a much cooler reveal for a very small group of people, but it also would have grabbed the attention of people who haven't played those games before and completely opened a whole new door for the Ace Combat series. I think it was 2022 when Armored Core 5, not Armored Core 5, Armored Core 6 was announced. Same deal. I stood up in my bedroom and screamed at the stream because I was so excited to get a new Armored Core game for the first time in a decade. And you have an entire audience of FromSoft players who had never heard of Armored Core before, and because they'd only played Souls games. So it's just one of those things where I feel bad for the studio for having their, first project come out and just immediately die on release. But things definitely could have been handled better. I don't really know where I wanted to go with this video. It's, probably just going to be a short 15-minute project for a guy who's never done a video before. But I just wanted to speak my mind. I'm probably going to make a video on Marathon in a couple of days when it launches. Like I said, I played the Server Slam. I really enjoyed it. I think that game's getting a lot of unnecessary hate just because it's not Arc Raiders and it's a new extraction shooter. But I just wanted to speak my mind a little bit. This probably isn't going to get any traction at all, but if it does, and if you like listening to me yap about games, this is kind of going to be an experiment for my channel. I've never uploaded anything besides old Warzone games of me and my buddies. So I apologize for looking not into the camera enough and looking at my screen. But yeah, I just wanted to, make a video recording kind of Bricky-esque, I guess you could say, and just give things a shot and see if this gets any traction. So if you like the video, I won't ask for a subscription, but, if you could leave me a comment and tell me what I did well and tell me what I need to improve on, that would be great. If anybody even ends up seeing this, it's probably just going to go on YouTube at first. But yeah, I really appreciate you watching if anybody watches. And like I said, maybe a video on Marathon at the end of the week. Okay, have a good one. Bye.